After specimen collection, the first organ system we're going to cover are the kidneys. The kidneys are super important because they affect minerals such as calcium, phosphate, and magnesium. They affect our electrolytes and our electrolyte balances, and they affect acid-base balance as well. The two main tests that we think of when we think of assessing the kidneys are the BUN and creatinine. BUN is blood urea nitrogen. When an animal has increased urea in the blood, it's known as azotemia. And there can be lots of reasons for azotemia in the animal. And the three things that we're very concerned with is the problem pre-renal, before the kidneys? Is it renal or is it post-renal? And one of the most common things we see is dehydration in the patients that are presented to the hospital. And dehydration can elevate blood urea nitrogen, making it a pre-renal cause of elevation, a pre-renal cause of azotemia. If we have primary kidney disease, that would be known as that azotemia would be renal or primary kidney disease. Post-renal would be your obstructed cats, any animal that's anuric, or a rupture of the bladder. Then the reason that the blood urea nitrogen is elevated is actually after the kidneys, and it can go up really high as the kidneys are not there to filter it. My students told me that one of the other tests that goes out with their kidney profiles is the SDMA. I don't have it in my notes, but I wanted to mention it. Another test that can be sent out for kidneys, especially with the presence of protein, is a urine protein creatinine ratio. This would be a urine sample, not a serum sample. And it's really important to remember that the BUN and creatinine can help us with kidney function, but we really need to have the urinalysis also, because assessment of specific gravity in BUN is really important. For instance, if we had an elevated BUN, but the animal was still concentrating urine pretty well at 1035, the reasons that the BUN could be elevated could be some of these other reasons. So, but if you have an elevated BUN and the animal is isosthenuric or not concentrating well, that leads us to think more of primary kidney disease. Creatinine is a test that more specifically addresses the kidneys. Creatinine is an actual product of muscle metabolism, but it's excreted exclusively through glomerular filtration. So the presence of creatinine in the blood can be more specific for kidney problems. Our next organ system is the liver. And I'm going to read these to you because the glare is pretty bad. In the liver, the first enzymes we want to talk about are ALT, AST, SDH, and LDH. Those are what's underneath this glare here. Those are considered more hepatocellular leakage enzymes. Remember that all of our enzymes have an ACE on the end of it. When we start talking about pancreatitis, we talk about amylase and lipase. Both of those are enzymes as well. The names for these abbreviations here, I'll just say a few of them. You're never going to remember all of them, but it's helpful to at least remember the abbreviations for them. So ALT would be aspartate aminotransferase, again, another ACE. AST would be sorbitol dehydrogenase. I'm reading this off of the sheet, as you can see. But all of these are enzymes. And the next set of enzymes are considered more cholestatic enzymes, or when we have a decreased flow of bile. Those would be the AP, ALK Phos, and GGT. Those would be more considered in the bile or the biliary system. Other more specific liver function tests, bile acids is an excellent liver function test. and direct and indirect bilirubin, and ammonia. Ammonia is a very specific test that requires a lot of different methods to pull it in the right circumstances to get a correct answer. I also put total protein under the liver because the protein, most proteins are manufactured in the liver. So total protein is a parameter, and albumin and globulin make up total protein. If you have an AG ratio, that would be your ratio of albumin to globulin, and that would also be a part of your chemistry test. Finally, the last organ system we'll cover is the pancreas, which is a really complicated organ. It serves both as an endocrine gland and an exocrine gland. As you guys know already, its endocrine functions in insulin and glucagon. And two other tests under here that would be, well, the test for endocrine would be more your glucose levels, and then fructosamine, which is not in your notes, but I put it there because it's a really important test, especially for diabetics whom we don't know what, if they're regulated or not. Fructosamine is a specific test that measures the blood glucose over the preceding 2 weeks of the test. So it's really helpful. It would be also helpful in insulinomas. Exocrine function, pancreas, those are our exocrine enzymes that break down the macronutrients such as starch and fat into micronutrients so the body can absorb them. So the first one I have listed here is amylase, which breaks down starches and carbs, and lipase, which breaks down fat. The protein, one of the tests that we can send out, especially if we suspect pancreatic insufficiency, is a TLI. You may remember it from your fecal lab in Blood Lab 1, trypsin-like immunoassay. This measures the protein that breaks, the assay that breaks down protein. So underneath some of the diseases that we'd be looking for under the pancreas would be pancreatitis and cancer of the pancreas, diabetes mellitus, and pancreatic insufficiency. Secondarily, GGT from back here and ALK phos, cholesterol and triglycerides would also give us some indication of problems or health in the pancreas. This was pretty much my lecture yesterday in a nutshell. I know it's pretty simple, but it will help us put together all of these tests and understand a little bit fundamental points on which tests go with each organ system. In determining what's wrong with an animal is the veterinarian's job, and it can get really complex, as you can see. And so anyway, these are the fundamental points that you should be aware of in this class for this subject. I also did a couple of case histories with the students yesterday, and I'll do those in a short video next.